free agency is about to open up to all 30 NBA teams to go ahead and target everyone else that has not accepted their player options and guys that weren't offered their team options that teams didn't accept as well. The Oklahoma City Thunder are looking to take advantage of this, as there are some decent names out there that they could sign to help out with their size and rebounding issues that they clearly had in the playoffs if signing for Isaiah Hartenstein or Jonas Valanciunas doesn't work out, or trading for a guy like Lauri Markkanen. It just isn't possible at all, since, he might require too much to obtain and we might not be willing to give up. I think, Utah would want a guy like Lou Dort and Cason Wallace in return, and realistically, I don't see us giving them both up just for Lauri Markkanen as well, along with 4 or 5 first-round picks. And so if none of these options open up or work out, I think there's some budget guys that could definitely help us out and be solid role players on this team that can help us win a championship. Like there's a guy out there, all right, that used to be a draft pick that we're going to go ahead and start off this video with, okay? James Wiseman. Very solid option, okay? Very, very solid. Defensively, meh, but rebounding-wise and size-wise, solid. The Pistons won't tender James Wiseman a qualifying offer, sources told Hoops Hype. The 23-year-old center, the number 2 pick of the 2020 NBA draft, becomes an unrestricted free agent. He played a career-high 63 games, averaging 7.1 points and 5.3 rebounds in 17.3 minutes of play last season. And so he's a solid guy. We're going to go ahead and look at the rest of the stats here, okay? Go ahead and look at the rest of the stats. So we looked at his points per game and rebounding-wise. Assist, 1, man, we don't care about that. Defensively, he is a cone sometimes. I'm going to be honest. Defensively, he can be a cone. Half a block a game off the bench for a center is not great. You want that at least 1. 2 fouls a game, that's solid. A turnover a game, defensive box plus minus is -1. We're going to go ahead and round that up there. But he's 7 foot and 23 years old. So, and OKC has a history of being able to develop younger guys and actually increase their value. And we can then package them in a trade for someone that is better, along with, another first-round pick in the trade as well. So, what we could do is James Wiseman and a first-round pick and a second-round draft pick for a center that could help us out even more from a team that is looking to just get rid of one of their guys on the team. And he would be solid off the bench, okay? He would be solid. Look at all these stats, 61% from the field, 1 turnover a game. That's solid as well as a center. 2 fouls per game, 7 points off the bench, and 5 rebounds off the bench in 17 minutes of play. That's not bad at all. He could be a serviceable backup center. Keyword serviceable. Not great, but not, bad. Just decent, serviceable, all right? He gets the job done, and it would be very solid if we can't get Isaiah Hartenstein or, Jonas Valanciunas, or trade for another big man. I know Clint Capella is on the market as well, Brook Lopez, and so, those guys, if we can't obtain them, James Wiseman is very solid coming off the bench for us. Now, these other 2 guys that I found would be solid off the bench, and one of them I think could be a decent, keyword decent, starting 4, all right? This next guy that we're going to look at here, okay? This is who I think could be a decent starting 4 for us. Saddiq Bey, all right? Woj tweeted out ESPN sources, the Atlanta Hawks will not deliver a qualifying offer to forward Saddiq Bey, clearing the way for him to become an unrestricted free agent. And he is a very, very, very solid option when we look at the stats for a starting 4, all right? Look at these stats here. 13.7 points per game, 6.5 rebounds. That is great for us as a starting 4 because he's a little undersized when you look at the height. 6'7", and he's 25 years old, all right? He's still young. He fits in the time frame with OKC. 1.5 assists per game. We're not going to worry about his blocks because he is a shorter guy, okay? Almost a steal per game. Less than a turnover a game, so that's solid. Less than 2 fouls a game, which is also solid. Someone that's just kind of going under the radar that not everyone's going to be taking a look at, that I think we could get for a budget option. I think we could get him for 12 to 15 million a year, signed to a 2-year deal, and he'd be solid at the 4. Move Dub back down to the 3. 41% from the field, so not very, not the most efficient guy from the field, but 31% from behind the arc. I would love that out of our 4, okay? I would love that kind of 3-point shooting out of our starting 4. Like I mentioned, 6'7", 25 years old. 29% on corner threes, 98% of his threes are assisted, and 51% of all of his shots are threes. So he's not afraid to take that 3 ball And he would fit in with the scheme of OKC, how we want to run a 5-out style, offensive style here. He is undersized a little bit, but rebounding wise, getting 6.5, that helps us out, along with the points at just right at 14, all right? Just under there. Very solid option at the 4. Okay, now I think on OKC, he'd probably average 10 points for us at the starting 4 position. There'd be some breakout games where teams kind of forget he exists and he can get 18 points a game, 18 to 20. And so I think it is a very solid option that not everyone is really going to be taking a look at, that he's just going to fly under the radar. That I think even if we sign Isaiah Hartenstein, all right, I think he's still an option that we can get and have start at the 4, because I think Alex Caruso would be best coming off the bench for us and being like our floor general. I want to say floor general, but the guy, our 6-man, our true 6-man coming off the bench with Caruso, our starting 5 with Bey in there. We already have Dort, Dove, the usual guys there, Shai and Chet. Add in Bey to that starting 5. Our bench rotation would then be Caruso, Cason Wallace, Wiggins, Joe, and Isaiah Hartenstein if we get him. Or if we want to, go get another backup big, all right, you can go get James Wiseman. He can be the backup center. And then we also have J. Will, someone that we totally forget about there, all right? If that's the case, that allows us trade options as well. Like we mentioned, pairing Wiseman if we do sign and we don't get Hart, okay? That allows us trade options to kind of package. I feel like Joe and, Wiseman in a trade package. Now, it'll be unfortunate to let Joe go. However, he is going to hit free agency next season unless we extend him pretty soon here. All right, at the time of recording this, neither Wiggins or Joe have been extended, and so that's still up in the air. We don't know what's going to be going on with them, and so it might be best to try to trade one of them, and out of the two, I'd rather keep Wiggins, but it'd make us very deep, okay? It'd make us very deep, and, it allows us options still to get a backup big, backup center for our bench rotation, and makes us 11 men deep in the regular season, and then while making trades during the regular season could eventually make us 9 to 10 men deep in the playoffs. And so it'd be very solid for us to kind of look at these options, and it keeps us deep in case an injury does happen somewhere in the starting lineup. Now, the last guy that we're going to talk about here, he's also solid, okay? He wasn't necessarily my first option, but he's also someone that can fly under the radar and I think would be a bench player for us. And that is Jaylen Smith, all right? Sources, Indiana Pacers forward Jaylen Smith is declining his $5.4 million player option and will enter unrestricted free agency. HoopsHype has learned, Smith has shot a career-high 59.2% from the field and 42.4% from three-point range for the Pacers last season. Very solid player. He's very solid. I don't know if he would necessarily be a starter for us, all right, but very solid option off the bench if we do go that route. Now we're going to go and take a look at his stats here, just kind of get a breakdown of what kind of player he is, okay? 10 points a game, 5.5 rebounds. As you can notice here, all these guys not really getting a ton of minutes, and you're not really like the star guys, but they're all getting anywhere from 5 to 7 rebounds a game, okay? 5.5 rebounds and assists per game. Defensively, could be better. He could be better, but that big body, I feel like you can at least teach him to kind of contest shots as well. I'm not very familiar with his game because he's just someone that I never really followed with on Indiana last season, and so I could be completely wrong. But with that size, he can be a good defender if he just contests shots. Less than a turnover a game, 2 fouls, 59% from the field, and 42% from behind the arc. And so if we want to go with our 5-out style of play still in the starting lineup and get someone that could probably be, in my guess, range 10 to 15 million per year, Jaylen Smith could fill that role and still be a starting 4 for us, I feel like. At 6'10 and 24 years old, I feel like it could be a solid option. These are guys, we have the cap space to go get a, somewhat star and add on our team. But realistically, there's a ton of good role players in this year's free agency class, and Jaylen Smith is one of those guys that everyone seems to forget about, that they're not going to realize, okay? 41%, he shot 41% on corner threes, and every single one of his 3 was assisted, okay? You can have him sit in the corner and try to collapse the defense since we are drive heavy, or we like to use these, shadow screens, these smoke screens and everything. Why not start including pick and pops, have him pop out, boom, assisted 3 there. Since he shoots, and since 1,000% of his threes are assisted, that's where he gets all of them. Then 36% of all of his shots are 3-pointers. So all these options are solid for us. All of them are very solid. And these are just all role players. I feel like budget-wise, we can get 2 of them. I truly think that, and it could help us out a ton. If we can't get Hartenstein, if he goes somewhere else, if he takes a pay cut, stays with New York, or if Orlando somehow sweeps him away from us, if we can't sign Jonas Valanciunas, if we can't trade for guys like Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, or Lauri Markkanen, these guys are solid. I feel like our moves that could still make us, one of the favorites to win the championship next season. I definitely, right now, we're probably, 6th or 7th, best odds if I had to guess to win the championship. Getting these moves, I feel like it can make, give us the 3rd best odds because it adds size, what we were missing. Helps us out rebounding-wise, which is what we were kind of killed on in the playoffs. That's just what we just absolutely didn't do well in. And then also, 2 of those guys could be solid starting force for us to kind of help Dub move back down to his natural position at the 3. Okay? So if I had to choose, all right, I think, this is just a situation where we don't get Hartenstein, we don't trade for anyone, all right, and these are our last options here, along with some other role players in this year's free agency, along with like Drummond, I think, Plumlee is in this year's free agency class as well. But out of these 3 options, here's what I do. I would sign James Wiseman to a budget-friendly deal of I think he's worth $12 million. All right, $12 million a year is what I think he's worth. Going to be honest, $10 to $12 million. All right, sign him to a 2-year deal with that, 2-year, $20 million deal. Okay, he'd be our backup center, and he'd be serviceable at our backup center position. Then what you can do, out of our the last 3 options there, I would want to sign Saddiq Bey over Jaylen Smith and move him to the starting 4. Run our small ball lineup still in the starting lineup because it was doing well. The problem was we got killed off the bench rebounding-wise, and having James Wiseman, that helps us out size-wise and rebounding-wise and could make us contenders, whereas we can still run our 5-out style of offensive play for a starting 5 with Saddiq Bey. Jaylen Smith is still a solid option. I think it will come down to, whoever is asking for less. And just being honest, I'd rather have Saddiq Bey, but if Jaylen Smith is asking for less, I wouldn't be mad at that at all either because he is a bigger body, but yet he can still play the 5-out style of offense for us. And so these are definitely some role players that I feel like going under the radar. If we sign these players, as Thunder, as fans of the Thunder, Thunder family, we shouldn't be upset if we make these moves, all right? If we make these moves, we should be very happy because they're solid players on a budget that still give us a little bit more, of flexibility in cap space if we're still looking to trade for someone, okay? But this is what I had to say about those guys, role players. Let me know what you guys think and some other guys that the Thunder should be looking out for role players-wise, backup centers, maybe even at a starting 4 in free agency. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.